Welcome to a new stitch of the month, and this month we are knitting, and I'm going to show you how to knit the two-coloured brioche stitch. This is one side of my swatch and this here is the other side. For the two-coloured brioche stitch you need to use a circular knitting needle, and that's because when working this stitch flat you essentially knit each row twice, once with each colour, and therefore you need to slide your stitches back across to the other side without turning your work. For my swatch I used Yarn & Colours Joy in colours mustard and cream. And for this larger swatch here, I cast on 41 stitches. But for demonstration purposes, I'm only going to cast on 15 stitches. If you want to cast on a different number of stitches, just make sure that you use an odd number of stitches. So now I'm going to cast on my 15 stitches. There we go, that's 15 stitches. Now, two-coloured brioche stitch has a 4-row pattern repeat. Before we can start those 4 rows, we have to work a foundation row. Now, we only work this foundation row once, and then we repeat the 4 rows of the stitch pattern itself as many times as required. We begin the foundation row by slipping the first stitch with the working yarn at the front. So we slip it as if we're going to purl it. Then we have a yarn over and we're going to knit the next stitch. But if you see, if we leave the yarn at the front, the yarn over will happen automatically as we knit the next stitch and bring the yarn to the back to wrap around the needle. Just like that. So then bring the yarn to the front, slip 1 stitch purlwise, and then without moving the yarn, knit the next stitch. And there you can see we've created the yarn over again at the same time. And then you continue like this, bring the yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, and then knit the next stitch, creating that yarn over at the same time. Bring the yarn forward, slip 1 purlwise, knit the next stitch, and create that yarn over at the same time. And you keep repeating this until the end of the row. So slip 1 purlwise and yarn over as you knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip 1 purlwise, and knit the next stitch, creating that yarn over at the same time. And then you slip the last stitch purlwise. And that completes the foundation row, and we only work it once here at the beginning. And now we can begin row 1 of the 4-row repeat. Now in this first row we're going to add our second colour, that's the mustard here. When I knit two-coloured brioche, I like to work my edge stitches in the same colour that I used for the cast on. So for rows worked in the other colour, I'm simply going to slip the edge stitch, which is the cream stitch. So let's add our second colour after slipping that edge stitch. And we need to locate the first yarn over. It can be a bit tricky when all the stitches are in the same colour, but that's this next stitch here with its yarn over. And we're going to do what's called a brioche purl stitch, which means you purl the stitch together with the yarn over from the previous row. And you simply purl them together. That's our first brioche purl stitch complete. And then, keeping our yarn at the front, we're going to slip the next stitch purlwise. Then we're going to yarn over and purl the next stitch together with its yarn over from the previous row. With the yarn in front, slip the next stitch purlwise, yarn over, and then purl the next stitch together with its yarn over. With the yarn in front, slip the next stitch purlwise, yarn over, and purl the next stitch together with its yarn over. So slip one, yarn over, and purl the next stitch together with its yarn over. Slip one purlwise, yarn over, and purl the next stitch together with its yarn over. Slip one, yarn over, and purl the next stitch with its yarn over. This last stitch is my cream edge stitch, so we just slip it unworked. At the end of this row, do not turn your work. We need to work this row again in the cream, so instead slide your stitches back to the other side, and then we're going to pick up the cream yarn to work row 2. If you can't remember which colour you used last and whether you still need to slide your stitches across or not, just check what colour the yarn overs are on your needle. They will be in the colour you used last, and if that colour is hanging at the edge of your work, it means you still need to slide your stitches across to pick up the next colour. And you essentially work your next row in the colour that features the least on your needle at any time. So I'm using cream for this row and my edge stitch is cream, so this time I knit the edge stitch. Then bring the yarn forward, slip one purlwise, and then we have a brioche knit stitch. So we knit the stitch with its yarn over from the previous row. And at the same time we're going to create the yarn over because we leave the yarn at the front. In the next row, we're going to knit these two stitches together. Then bring the yarn forward, slip one purlwise, and then brioche knit the next stitch and its yarn over in the previous colour. And create the yarn over as you do the brioche knit. Bring the yarn forward, slip one stitch purlwise, and yarn over, brioche knitting the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip one purlwise, yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip one purlwise, and then create that yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. Then slip this stitch, yarn over, and slip the edge stitch. Our yarn overs are in cream, and it looks like we have more cream than mustard on our needle, so that means our next row is going to be in mustard. But mustard is hanging here on this edge of the work, which is the side we will begin on, so we don't need to slide the stitches across. This time we turn our work. So turn your work, ready to start row 3. Now slip the cream edge stitch and then brioche knit the next stitch with its yarn over using the mustard yarn. Then bring the yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, and then brioche knit the next stitch and its yarn over, and you create the yarn over again at the same time. Bring the yarn forward, slip 1 purlwise, yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip 1 purlwise, and yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. Oh, I missed out the yarn over. So yarn over and brioche knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip 1 purlwise, yarn over, and brioche knit the next stitch. All these yarn overs are in mustard, which means we need to use cream for the next row. Cream is currently hanging on the other side of our row, so that means we need to slide our stitches across without turning our work to pick up the cream. As we get into the pattern repeat, you'll notice that we alternate working 2 rows of brioche knit stitches and 2 rows of brioche purl stitches. And I'm going to show you how to tell whether it's a knit row or a purl row based on how the stitches present themselves. So depending on if you can see a column of V's below the brioche stitch or purl bumps. And you'll see them directly below the stitches from the previous rows. As we're using cream, we knit the edge stitch. This here is the brioche stitch, so we first need to slip the one before it, so bring your yarn forward and slip that stitch purlwise. Now if you look at your brioche stitch, you can see that we've got purl bumps below it, and that means this is a brioche purl stitch. So yarn over and brioche purl the next stitch. With the yarn in front, slip 1 purlwise, yarn over, and brioche purl the next stitch. Slip 1 purlwise, yarn over, and brioche purl the next stitch. Slip 1 purlwise, yarn over, and brioche purl the next stitch. Slip 1 purlwise, yarn over, and brioche purl the next stitch. Slip 1, yarn over, brioche purl the next stitch. Slip 1, yarn over, and slip the edge stitch. Both colours are hanging here, so that means we can turn our work. And the next row, which is a repeat of row 1, is worked in mustard. So bring the mustard yarn up around the cream to stop it from pulling too tightly. So slip the edge stitch, and then our next stitch is going to be a brioche purl stitch. So bring the yarn to the front and brioche purl the stitch with its yarn over. Then slip the next stitch with the yarn in front, and then yarn over and brioche purl the next stitch. Slip the next stitch with the yarn in front, yarn over, and brioche purl the next stitch. Slip the stitch purlwise, yarn over, and brioche purl the next stitch. Slip 1, yarn over, and brioche purl the stitch. Slip 1, yarn over, and brioche purl. Slip 1, yarn over, and brioche purl, and then slip the edge stitch. I now need to use cream, which is hanging on the other side of my work, so that means I need to slide the stitches across without turning. Here's my cream yarn. And because my edge stitch is in cream, I can knit the cream edge stitch. Then we have a single stitch, so bring the yarn forward and slip the stitch purlwise. And then you can see from these V's below the next stitch that we need to brioche knit the next stitch with its yarn over. So with the yarn in front, for the yarn over, brioche knit the next stitch. And there you can see you've made another V to add to the top of the column of cream V's. Then bring the yarn forward, slip one purlwise, and then yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. And now you can clearly see the two coloured brioche pattern begin to emerge. So bring the yarn forward, slip one stitch purlwise, then yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip one purlwise, and yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip one purlwise, yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip one purlwise, insert your needle and yarn over as you brioche knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip one stitch purlwise, yarn over and slip the edge stitch. The next row is worked in mustard. That's already hanging on this side, so instead of sliding our stitches across, we turn our work. And now we can see on this side that our V columns are in mustard. So this fabric is reversible with V's in one color on this side and V's in the other color on the reverse. We've now worked a total of 6 rows together, so continue with row 3 of the 4-row repeat. I hope you have lots of fun brioche knitting. It is a challenging stitch, but it has a lovely rhythm to it and it produces such a wonderful knit fabric, especially with these two contrasting colours that alternate on the different sides. Enjoy!